So our first session is on leveraging tools for success, and I wanted to kind of kick us off with a Menti again. So if you guys wouldn't mind going to that Menti and answering the question. So the first question is, if you have a fleet plan, so yes, it's a yes or no, like does my utility, or does my municipality have an EV fleet plan? So we can see where everybody's at. We've got 17 folks that do not have an EV fleet plan and 8 that do. And so as we're thinking about these tools for success, we also need to think about the systems that are in place in our governments to help make those successful. So we wanted to start just by having a conversation in the room about what everybody has in place and what folks need to have in place. So for those of you that have an EV fleet plan, who on your team is leading that work?
Sorry, repeat the question.
So if you do have an EV fleet plan, who on your team is leading that work? And is it sustainability folks? Is it fleet? Is it?
Are you asking the time?
That's what I'm asking. Yes, so.
Taking all the fun out of it. Fleet has driven the path for electrification, right? We've done that because that's what I was brought from California to Raleigh, North Carolina to do, was to make their fleet more sustainable, modernized, and force it towards electrification. So I guess I've been the catalyst of trying to move it forward. We did a very comprehensive EV implementation strategy rollout plan. We didn't call it a plan because when I proposed to the city drafting a plan, they said, well, we already got a plan. We have a plan on a plan that's about a plan. So I said, well, this is not going to be a plan. This is how we're going to execute it. This is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to pay for it. This is what we're going to replace. This is where infrastructure is going. So it mapped it all out, so to speak. But we can't drive it by ourselves. So we collaborate with a lot of different departments throughout the city, especially sustainability, because they're our driving force for the climate action plan. And they can bang on the mayor's door and talk to the city council members and talk to the city manager's office. But you also have to have facilities involved too, and you have to have HR involved. So it's a collaboration. It's not one stop, including your energy providers. So we constantly meet on a regular basis with all of our stakeholders that help us drive the force. And I think I'm just rambling, so take this mic out of my hand.
Yeah, that was exactly what I was wanting to get at, that it's like not just one person, one department to make this work.
Yeah, so in our city in Coral Gables, we started our fleet transition in 2016, and at that time, I sat with our fleet director and we looked at each department's, really we targeted our administrative vehicles. What can we use that's light duty, and then went to the department directors and said, okay, are these vehicles considered non-rescue recon? Like, do we need these after a hurricane, right? Because Florida, that's top of mind. You talk to any fleet director, it's, okay, what can these vehicles, do we need these, are they mission critical after a hurricane? So when we looked at that, we identified 75 vehicles within our fleet. Our fleet's around 400. So we've converted all 70 of those vehicles over. So right now our fleet is about 12% electric total. But we did, and we're continuing to work. So to your point, having conversations, like right now we're having conversations with our police department, and our police department's like, yeah, as soon as there's a vehicle that's pursuit rated, well, we want to make that conversion, right? So we're looking at, I think Dodge might be coming out with one either this year or next year. So continuing to look and identify where there's opportunities for us to convert. I think our biggest challenge has been on the heavy duty side, on the garbage trucks, and I also oversee not only our sustainability, but our transit in the city. So on the trolley side, I don't run buses, I run trolleys, and the technology just hasn't been there yet. But yeah, it's really working with all the different departments and really spearheaded by sustainability and fleet. And if you're in sustainability, have a really good relationship with your fleet director is always the biggest recommendation I have. Keep your fleet director happy and you can have those conversations.
I'm going to add on to that. I don't know about you, Mike. One of the challenges that we are facing and have faced is that what happens oftentimes times, is that we determine what vehicles are going to be replaced based on a useful life cycle. And we send that out to the departments along with the spec sheet. They can pick and choose what they want. And then oftentimes when it comes down to you're getting some type of clean energy alternative fuel vehicle, especially electrification, there's this immediate pushback. Is that it can't perform, it can't do, doesn't look like, doesn't feel like. So all of a sudden they go to their directors and they go to the city manager's office and says, we're not accepting an electric vehicle. It's got to be diesel, or it's got to be what it has been in the last 20 years. So oftentimes fleet would be the bad guy, right? Would be the nemesis of this entire process. And then we don't have necessarily the ultimate decision to then say, no, you are getting an electric vehicle, go pound sand. And we have, and we've gotten our butts kicked. So what we did is we refer to it as a Clean Energy Equipment Replacement Committee. So we have people throughout the city that are really not recipients of the electric vehicles, and a few that are, and they look at the entire now equipment replacement list, and they look at which ones can be electrified, and said, this is what you're getting unless you can tell me otherwise. And then there's this kind of decision tree that says if it can't be an electric, then it's got to be a plug-in. If it can't be a plug-in, then it's got to be a CNG. If it can't be a CNG, it's got to be a renewable propane. And ultimate, if it has to be diesel, there better be a damn good reason. And now you've got a committee member deciding these things, and rather than Rick Longobar going, guess what, you're getting electric vehicle spread, which is not always well embraced and received.
Thank you for that. Okay, so for those of you that do have an EV fleet plan, we'll just do this by show of hands. Is it being developed in-house or with a contractor? So in-house, and then with a contractor. All right, so 2 different ways to do it. And for those that are kind of further along, what are the tools or the contractors or the resources that are most useful? Sounds like that decision tree is very helpful in taking some of the heat off of one person.
Yeah, I can mention a couple things for City of Orlando. One of them is to have the CFO and the budgeting folks on board. So at City of Orlando, our CFO and budgeting team, they actually believe that EVs are a better investment than gas vehicles. Some of that actually has to do with our challenges trying to hire auto mechanics. Like it's easier for them to maintain the EVs, so it actually helps with some staffing issues for us as well when we have more EVs. But one of the tools we're using right now is, I think we have similar numbers to you. We're at like 12% EVs. We have another 12%, I think, that are hybrid. And we've gotten all the people that wanted to be the early adopters and wanted to be sustainable. So now we're kind of taking more of a carrot approach, maybe a little different than Rick, it sounds like. So we're doing ride and drives with employees. We're actually leveraging our motor pool. So our fleet director buys an electric van, he puts it in the motor pool, he tries to convince the facilities team, like, hey, have your electricians try out the electric van this week and see how it goes. We're buying lunch and hosting these ride and drive events. So we're giving the police chief an electric SUV. So we're really just starting a big push to encourage the people that don't think that the EVs can meet their operational requirements. And I think luckily over the last just couple years, we've seen the electric pickup trucks and the electric vans. Like now there's a ton of options. And as soon as we put somebody from Parks like in the F-150 Lightning, they immediately fall in love with it. So it's really just trying to encourage them to test what we have in our motor pool and then hopefully scale it beyond where we're at.
A motor pool is a great way to start as well. But we have a wireless Bluetooth application where you don't even need reserve vehicles. Literally, it's like you hold your phone up, you're a user, it authorizes the transaction, you drive away, use the vehicle, unlock it, lock it through the fob. Provided you never need to touch a key, and literally you drop it off, take it one way, drop it off another way. So, floating.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out, and I touched on it a little bit yesterday, but Miami-Dade County's tried to be very forward with this. Our mayor is, really gung-ho about electrification of the fleet, and she actually issued the memo directing all of the departments to work towards 100% electrification of our replacement vehicles by 2030. It's phasing in a 10% increase each year. In addition to that, we've converted 10% of our bus fleet to electric. We have like our South Bay busway that's going to, I understand, be the first of its kind in the nation, an all-electric bus rapid transit system. We have one electric garbage truck, which used to be a nice story because it would pick up trash and then get its energy from our waste-to-energy plant, but unfortunately that caught on fire. That's another story altogether. Yes, a small problem there. Yes, oh, thank you. No, but that did bring me to another point about fires. I'm going to circle back to fires. But I just wanted to say, like, within an organization, it's like this is a big paradigm shift to go to. It's not just like converting cars to electric. There's all of the infrastructure that goes with it and all of the considerations for usage. For example, one of the things we had to deal with is that some of our employees take home vehicles. And so are we going to put in infrastructure at their homes? It's something they're actually considering, or are we going to ensure that they have something nearby? For the way code enforcement, for example, uses those vehicles in the morning. So I think it's really important to look at usage like before embarking on the plan and really understand it, especially in a large organization. Fires are actually an issue with the electric vehicles, especially in a coastal area such as ours. We know that ICE vehicles catch on fire far more often, and the fires are not for the EVs alone. Even micromobility, those lithium-ion batteries catch on fire too. But when they're exposed to the salt water, there is an increased risk there. And so the way that we manage the use of those vehicles, especially in areas subject to coastal flooding, is also important. So I'm just emphasizing that there's so many considerations and the importance of really doing a lot of due diligence as part of the effort.
Thank you. Very important conversations about, like you said, all of the different components. And it's not just switching a car for a car like you would think that it would be. Okay, so now I want to share some resources with you guys. So I'm not sure if you are all familiar with this or not, but the federal government has an energy management program, and they have an entire suite of resources called the ZEV Ready Center. So the ZEV Ready Center is a grouping of, it's a process of, these are the steps that you would take to transition a fleet. And then it also embedded has tons of tools and resources that you can use. So let me just see, kind of show hands, who's familiar with this resource already? Okay, just a couple folks. So, so when you go to the website, it has all of these resources, electric vehicles for federal fleets, here in one place. And it has the ZEV Ready Center, which is, like I said, if you click on it, it's a 15-step process, and it talks through who all needs to be part of the conversation, all the decisions that need to be made, and then it has all of these links with resources to it. Additionally, there is, in addition to the ZEV Ready Center, there's this EV toolkit, and if you click on that, it's got a whole lot of different components, but one of the first things it has is this EV checklist, which I think is really useful. I printed a copy of it so we can all kind of see it. And if you guys want to take a look at any of it. Well, I only printed one because I was trying to be sustainable. But, so it's this fleet electrification checklist. So it's got like EV knowledge and training materials embedded. It's got videos embedded that folks can just watch as, time permits. And then it also links to the GSA website. And so I just wanted to make sure you guys are all aware of that. So I've got all of these links in the slides. But it's the General Services Administration. It's basically the federal government's procurement. Okay, so this checklist is part of it has got the GSA alternative fuel vehicles website, and it's got just tons and tons of resources that are really helpful. So it's got a spreadsheet that has all of the available vehicles to procure, and it goes through their range, the cost for them from the federal, because, you know, they purchased at a discount. It has just tons and tons of information in one place. And then it also has this fact sheet, so you can actually like see the different models and understand like the cost comparison, the range, the connector type, all of the details that you would want to know. And then they also have other resources like there's a request for a quote template, so that if you're like, I don't know how to put this out to bid in a way that would be easiest, they've got these templates ready for you. So I'll pass some of the stuff around. I just wanted to make sure that you guys were aware that that's there. And while I was going through it, I found, whoops. There we go. So I'll just kind of pass those around if you guys want to take a look at them or not.
Quick question. So it sounds like this is a treasure trove of information. It looks like it's on the DOE website. I guess you guys know where I'm going with this. So hey, good morning, everyone. So this looks like a great resource. Treasure trove of information. Is there any possibility that the Southern Alliance for Clean Energy is taking efforts to like save this information so that it might be able to be accessed at another website in case changes are made to that one?
So you bring up a great point, Carrie, like what happens if all of this goes away? And all of this is geared for federal fleets and agencies, right? So my next question on the Menti is about if we were going to create these kind of resources for local governments that would have staying power and would not just magically disappear one day, what are the things that you would want to have? So let me switch it. Okay, so what are the specific parts of a plan that, so there's this, these resources are all parts of the plan, right? They're all different tools, different resources. So what are the things, if we were going to work on a toolkit like this for local governments, what are the components that are most necessary that you guys keep coming back to and get stuck on? Is it like the makes and models? Is it the infrastructure? Like what pieces would be most useful? So we do not have a plan. Cost benefits, data, emergency preparedness, how to get started, potential costs not considered, the range of trucks, especially for field guys, availability and use of chargers, i.e. fob systems or badging system, warranty and range, payback and procurement, one-to-one comparisons between ICE vehicles and potential EV replacements. I don't have a clue if I'm here to start. I love that honesty, so how to convince skeptics to convert over, lack of infrastructure in the right locations, TCO, answers and resources to frequent pushback comments, common number of ports to vehicle ratios. And on the one vehicle guide, the spreadsheet, it does show some pursuit rated vehicles. So for Matt, when I was looking at it, I was like, oh look, it's broken down by it, so you can see different types of models available for use, which is kind of cool. So would those kind of, would that be helpful? Like that big spreadsheet that has all of the available models with all of the pertinent information to help make decisions? Just brainstorming of like other things that would be helpful so asking like, would it be helpful to have that kind of spreadsheet with all the models, the mixed models with the range and all of that in one place?
And one of the reasons why we're asking the question is that in our conversations with NREL, when we met with them to talk about their federal tool, it's like they were in the process and may still be in the process of looking to convert to a municipal tool, and we may be looking for ways to help make that happen. And so we're trying to confirm as well kind of what were they putting together on the federal side that may align with what municipalities need, and what may be additional or different needs for a municipality that they may not have been considering for federal fleet. So that as they do this effort, it can be done in a way that's most supportive for what you need.
The biggest thing for us that a list of all the vehicles that are available in the market is useful for me when I'm putting together a list for our internal people, but the biggest thing that pushback that we get is if it's not on a procurement contract, like the sheriff's, NC Sheriff's contract or the state procurement contract, our budget team doesn't even want to consider it because it's such a hassle to find vehicles, because you have to get so many quotes and you have to basically do your own procurement for those vehicles, whereas if it's on state contract, you just call the dealer. So that's a hurdle for us, is a lot of the vehicles that are, I'd say most of the vehicles that are available in the marketplace are not on those procurement contracts. It's whoever bids on them.
I would say for me is got political will to a certain extent to do the transition. It's just hesitancy with the fleet department because they're concerned about servicing the vehicles and not having a skilled workforce within the city to service them. So wonder if there are any resources or tips to develop some type of training or something with the currently employed mechanic guys for EV vehicles.
So to that, what I would recommend, I know at least in Miami-Dade County, I believe it's either Broward College or Miami-Dade College had a EV training program. So we were looking into sending, we had a mechanic that actually, we were fortunate because we had a mechanic that came from Tesla. So he had background on EVs. Don't think he's still with us, but we were looking at sending, looking for opportunities to send our mechanics to go get trained through some of the local training programs. So you might want to check your area to see if there are any of the technical schools or anything like that that have that sort of training available.
See, we're connecting. Look at that. No, I think that would be great if like fleet manager talks to fleet manager and
Yeah, we need a meeting.
maybe we could have like a huddle.
So we've been currently working on our energy resiliency plan and just recently had some workshops. And I'm bringing this up because a lot of the problem happens to be, well, with the city of Key West, and I'm sure other cities could relate to this too, and then the same, and even when we talked about our EV installation and like just maintenance has been like one of the greatest challenge in pretty much all our efforts and what we're trying to achieve. And one thing that we talked about is that having trainings that are recorded. So maybe some sort of platform to have where it could be recorded and posted for us to be able to refer our staff to go there. And that could, because another thing with our city is that it is so remote and it's expensive, so staffing always becomes an issue. And then we have staff that's changing all the time. So, and then it becomes even more expensive to keep getting a team down to train staff to learn how to do the maintenance. And when we talk to our fleet or transit department, they say, hey, our guys don't exactly want to deal with, like they find it hard to maintain hybrid fleet. But now if we're turning towards electric, that's more stuff for them to learn. And then by the time they get trained, they're gone. So, yeah, and that was one of the solutions that we came up with just last week. So just wanted to share.
Thank you. That's a good thought. All right, I'm going to switch us over to talking about this EVI locate tool. So it's basically a comprehensive design tool. It helps you create charging station plan, and so it helps to figure out the cheapest way to site the charger locations, to understand all of the electrical upgrades that are necessary, and then to estimate costs. So there's a little video that I'm gonna show you, and then we're gonna, if you got yourself registered, you can start playing with it on your own, or I will go through slides and kind of demonstrate the way that the tool works.
Question on the maintenance side. How do you all think about, when you're talking maintenance, I understand the mechanic piece and talking about maintenance there, but what about the charging infrastructure itself? Is that included? Are there folks here who are actually maintaining their own charging infrastructure, or is that usually contracted out as a service?
Yeah, we use a third party for all of our EV chargers in the city of Hollywood. And we're starting to look at a cost share agreement right now to try and lower the cost.
I have sort of a question about that. We have a bunch of chargers that we are being given by Ford as a function of buying Ford vehicles. And that's available to anybody. And Ford has a national contract with ABM, who has put in those Ford chargers at Ford dealerships, and they have the contract to do the warranty and service work for it as well. I don't have any experience with how well that's worked, but I've got a lot of calls from those folks. I wonder if anybody else has had experience with that and knows about those Ford chargers.
So we have standardized our chargers with the exception of what Gordon just brought into the mix. We use only BTCs and we use Atom Power, and we do our own maintenance because we keep consistent with chargers and open architecture. We also hired a trade tech in fleet because we had so much involvement with sustainability and facilities that we need someone in the trade industry. So we created a position through our last budget cycle. So that person is our liaison to resolve, fix, replace any of our chargers. But to Gordon's point, we did get, I think, 7 Ford chargers, and they're pretty cool. They're open protocol, so you can communicate to any third-party outside network or software. They were free with the vehicles. They're level 2 chargers, probably not a whole lot of wattage, probably 15 kilowatts, probably relatively low, but hey, we'll take free. And then we had our own internal team install them. But the network is fabulous, called Blue Oval. If you've not experienced it, you can actually navigate from the Ford vehicle to a charging location, and if you set up the account on the vehicle itself, when it gets to the charger, the third-party charger outside of your own network, you literally pull up to the charger, it recognizes the vehicle because the vehicle has telemetry built into the Ford vehicle, and then it authorizes the charge without pulling out a fob, a credit card, an app. It sends the bill to the city then pays the vendor. So the person never gets out of the car to do anything other than plug the J17 or CSS into the vehicle. And it's free.
Okay, I think we've got our video working again.
Can we do one last comment?
Oh, okay.
So to the original question on how we maintain, so our city, we have 56 charging ports that we manage, that our city staff tries to address most of the issues. The minor issues, like the main stuff that we see come up is like the clips. We have all level 2 through ChargePoint, and we have the clips that'll break off or not function from time to time. Actually, one of my staff members worked with ChargePoint, learned how to replace those clips so we can address those quick ones. The other main issue we have is if the charging station's not connecting, I guess, to the ChargePoint cloud. So we have our city electrician go out and reset the breaker. A lot of the times that addresses the issue. And then for any major repairs, which we haven't had many, thankfully, we would have to, we call ChargePoint and then they send somebody out. But even when we called and said, hey, the clips are broken, they want to send a contractor out in charge, and we're like, whoa, like, show us how to do it. And we were able to address most of the ongoing maintenance issues. And some of our charging stations have been in since 2016. So we've been very fortunate in the fact that, we haven't had a lot of major maintenance issues. And they're located all in our surface parking lots and in our parking garages.
So when in doubt, turn it off and turn it back on again, right?
Okay, guys, so here's the video for you.
Well, this is the best place to install EV charging station here because people pull in right over here.
No, the service panel's all the way over there.
Then let's just install a new one right over here.
It's gonna increase the cost to trench power all across this parking lot.
I've
and
got some new
support-
specs, and it's gonna cost a lot less than we expected, so we can put a new service panel over there.
No, we cannot have we have to have the service panel power coming
No,
from
let's just
here
install
all
a new
across the
one
parking
here.
lot.
So now here we can train.
Planning for electric vehicle chargers doesn't have to involve guesswork. The National Renewable Energy Laboratory has developed a new web tool to simplify and standardize the charging station design and cost estimation process. It's called EVI Locate, or the Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Locally Optimized Charging Assessment Tool and Estimator. EVI Locate is an online application that guides users through an interactive EVSE site analysis. You can plan out where your EV chargers will go, what kind of electrical upgrades you'll need to install, and how much it'll all cost. One benefit of electric vehicles is that they can charge when they sleep, like your cell phone. But unlike your cell phone, EVs require a lot of power to charge. And how much power will you really need for your unique site? EVI Locate can do those calculations for you with an easy-to-use process tailored to your needs. To start with, let's take a look at how EVI Locate's site assessment process works. First, you'll select your site's location and define a site boundary using Geographic Information System images. EVI Locate helps determine the best location for charging stations by analyzing your site's unique landscape and energy infrastructure. Next, EVI Locate helps estimate charger power requirements for your site. This includes your transformer and existing peak load, service panel capacity, and wiring and trenching needs. We know that EV chargers can be expensive to install. EVI Locate can help cut costs by determining the most cost-effective locations for charging stations and service panels. This saves costs by minimizing expensive trenches and backfilling.
You don't need to be an electrical engineer or be an EV charging expert to use this tool. You don't even have to do any math. All you need to do is input some data into the site map, and then the tool will calculate the electrical capacity. Then you can figure out your project details and the cost of your project.
How does it work? EVI Locate was developed by utilizing the National Electrical Code, engineering calculations, geospatial processors, and the results of analyzing more than 1,000 invoices of past EV charging projects. The National Electrical Code, known as NFPA 70, provides the tool with calculations on wire gauges and materials, as well as conduit trade sizes based on power requirements, distance covered, and ambient conditions. Engineering calculations determine the requisite capacity of the service transformers and service panels. Geospatial processors look at hardscape surfaces like asphalt and concrete versus softscape like grass or dirt. This is an important consideration for installation costs because trenching and backfilling hardscape is significantly more expensive than for softscape. A geoprocessing algorithm then determines the least cost path for running wires. NREL researchers compile data from RS means and other sources to develop the initial cost estimates. Then they examine more than 1,000 invoices from real-world charging station installations to calibrate the results. The cost estimates account for differences in material and labor rates by zip code and are specific to U.S. Department of Defense locations using the Army Corps of Engineers base adjustment factors.
A lot of data and research has gone into EVI Locate's development. While there's plenty going on behind the screens, all I really need to do is click through a few screens to plan my next project, and the tool does the rest.
For a step-by-step tutorial on how to use EVI Locate, watch the second video. Thanks for watching.
All right, so if you've got your EVI Locate account up and you can log in, then feel free to go along with me, or if you'd rather just kind of follow the slides. This is basically what you do. You log in. So it used to just, be for federal employees, but now they've got a public account that you can create and log in. So you put in your zip code, and then you literally create the points on the map. You zoom in, click your 4 points, and then double click, and then that's the site. And then the next step, you select your chargers, so how many you want, the type of charger you want. Do you want them to be pedestal or a wall unit? Do you want it dual port, or do you want it just single port? So those kind of questions. And then you can also do DCFC if you want fast charger or level 2. There are some details that you need to put in if you want to modify it. It defaults to a power factor of 0.95 and a load limit of 85%. But if the charging units are different than that, then you would need to modify that. And then the next thing, it takes you through, it asks if you currently have the power need from your transformer at the site. So if it's a brand new site, then you would just click, we need new equipment, and it factors that in. But if you have a transformer at the site, it asks you some questions so that you can see if the transformer has enough power to facilitate the site. So it'll ask about the rating, and then the total peak. So you may need to call your utility to get an understanding of the total peak load for that site over the course of a year. So again, I think Melody was gracious enough to help kind of be a guinea pig and go through this with me. And there was some information that you had to call some different departments to try to get this from. But like the woman said, like, you don't have to be an electrical engineer to figure it out. You just need to ask some of the different people on your staff to be able to get the data points that you need to fill the tool in. And then it asks about the service panel. So again, if it's a new site, you would need a new service panel. But if you have a service panel on the site, then it asks if if it's indoors, if it's outdoors, and then it asks about the voltage, and you need to make sure that you've got enough room in the panel to facilitate it. And it walks through like what the different needs are for the different size charging stations. And then it goes through a review design. So then you click like generate, and then like the video said, it creates the path of least resistance for the wiring and tries to make it as cost effective. And then it also allows you to edit some cost assumptions. So things like if there's permitting fees that your city would charge, and different like what the tax base is, because that it fluctuates from municipality to municipality. And then it also asks if you want like the bollards, if you want painting, if you want signage, and it factors all of those components in. And then it spits out a final cost estimate, and it breaks it down by all of the different components. So I was assuming that it would need a new transformer, and it would need, and this was 4 dual port chargers, so it's about $70,000 for this site. So I wanted to just show you guys what this tool does, and see if anybody has any questions, or if anybody wants to spend some time. I built in like 15 minutes for you guys to kind of play with it now if you want to. So, cool. Thoughts, questions, concerns, comments? I mean, the site still works this morning, so Carrie, I was like, fingers crossed when I woke up this morning, like, yes, it still works.
Oh, I was just saying, I think in most municipal world, government, federal, state, or otherwise, this is a great starting point. But it wouldn't be something you would send a budget and say, this is how much money I have. I think you'd probably need an on-site assessment, but at least you know what to start planning for, so you get closer into the weeds, right? Because there's a lot of unknowns.
That seems to anticipate that that's all your decision inside your organization. I can't touch that network without the utility approving it. And frankly, the big hangup in the utility approval is how long is it going to take to get that transformer? They tell me 72 weeks. 72 weeks to get a new transformer. I mean, it's just, we're talking years here, so I'm going somewhere else.
Yeah, and I think, prior to my job I have now, I used to run a charging infrastructure company, and we did a lot of installations on city property. And we did a lot of grant work with cities trying to get the funding to do those installations. And where I see the real value of this tool is that whether it's you individually in your role or it's your team thinking through where should we place these charging stations, you can do a really quick and easy analysis across multiple sites and get a sense as to which ones are going to be more costly and which ones might be more cost efficient. And then with the sites that you ultimately choose, you can get, I'd say, a range of what you could expect the cost to be. And without ever having to talk to your utility and wait for them to show up on a site or whatnot, you can get a sense of that, and then you can be evaluating the funding opportunity to see whether or not it's applicable. If there's a match, you now have a sense of what your match is going to need to be, so you can just become that much more informed. And then whoever you're sending that information to, who would ultimately do that deeper site analysis, you're going to have more confidence in where you're sending them. And I think that's really the value of this. I could see this tool saving a city weeks, if not months of time to kind of get to that answer of all these places we could, where should we think about putting these chargers? And the labor's by zip code. So it's taking into account what you should expect in your zip code.
Yeah, Michael Russian, DeKalb County, Georgia. I think some of the challenges with that is, even if you do that, you're still gonna have to locate, see if any utilities or water lines in those areas. So I think that would be probably a big challenge. For sure.
Yeah, I think to Rick's point, it's not the done deal, right? You don't hit print and you're done here. But I think it can really build confidence and kind of move a conceptual project to a point where you're more sure about its ability to move forward.
And in terms of just having cost estimates for the equipment and stuff, I know I've heard from folks say, I don't even know what to estimate to our council what a project would cost. At least this kind of gives you some confidence of ballpark to be able to go and say, this is what we would anticipate. And then obviously you would need to vet it and put it out to bid.
And if I could add one more place where I see this of benefit, if I put back on my private sector hat, if I'm coming back to you with a quote for what it's going to cost to do the installation you want your private sector partner to do, you now have a tool where you could run that through and see how aligned that estimate is from your private sector partner with what this tool says, and then set you up to have a conversation with that private sector partner to explain why their cost might be a lot higher. So I think it also can work that way to help you be more confident that what you're getting from a quote perspective is accurate.
They didn't have any list of contractors that can do installation? No. That'd be much better.
Yeah.
Your zip code, they can find.
And if they would honor what was, if they knew what you got, so you guys work together.
You want to say fix it, right?
All right, so I was just going to give you guys a little bit of time to kind of dig around on the tool if you want.